Hello everybody. In this series of Yoda hacks on Excel, let me share you 5 shortcut keys on Excel which I believe most of you would not be knowing about, and if you start working on it, you will definitely start using it on an everyday basis. So first one goes like this. Whenever you intend to write a formula, let's say Vlookup, normally what we do, we write equal to VL and generally we press the tab key to activate the full autocomplete of formula. Now the point is, once you've reached to this end of the formula where the bracket or parenthesis open, generally to be able to access the function argument box, we click on this FX button, isn't it? Well, next time you don't. Next time you write VL equal to VL, press the tab key to autocomplete the formula and then press Ctrl A. It automatically gives you that function argument box and it works with all formula. Had you written formula like equal to sum, tab key, press Ctrl A. Once you have got that function argument box, let me put in some dummy numbers, let's say 1. Now I need to go to the next box inside this one, number 2 section. So I press the tab key, I put 2, I press the tab key, it goes to third section. Now if for some reason I want to go to the previous text box to fill in a number which is different than 2, then I press Shift tab key. It allows me to toggle to the previous box, tab key forward and Shift tab backward. Now I press enter to be able to take all these values and add these numbers up. Now for instance, you have written the formula, got the answer, but I want to go back to the scenario where you're able to look at the formula from that same function argument box approach. So at this moment, when you're on top of this cell, press Shift F3, function key F3. It quickly opens the function argument box and now you can manipulate using the tab key or maybe even Shift tab key. So there you go. This was a combination of shortcut from shortcut 1, 2 and 4, 5. Now at times it happens that you have written a group of formulas and I want to see in a quick glance what are the shortcuts or the formulas that has been used in the background. So I press Ctrl Backtick key. Automatically this shows me all the formula which has been written in the entire sheet. What is backtick key? Well, immediately above the tab key you will have 2 character keys which are placed on the same key. One is the tilde and just below that there's a single backtick key. So you got to press Ctrl and the backtick key together to be able to view all the formulas at one go, and once you've seen so, press the same shortcut key once again, you go back to normal. So use this shortcut keys and I'm sure you'll start loving this as you proceed and start working on a day-to-day basis. See you in the next Yoda hacks. And if you like our videos so much, I request that you subscribe to our channel because once a new video gets added, you will be sent notifications of. In this current series of shortcut keys, my focus will be more on formatting tricks with respect to shortcut keys. Now, I'm not going to burden with you loads and loads of shortcut key. In fact, very selective, but the ones which I'll be using along with you are the ones which you must remember and start using. And you'll soon find out why. Well, in this case, often it happens that you right click and go to format cells, correct? Now, instead of doing that, you might as well use Control digit 1. Control and 1 will prompt you with this format cells dialog box, which otherwise you would have got by clicking on format cells separately. Now, just a word of caution while using this shortcut key, use the digit 1 from this series of digits on your keyboard, not the one which are present on the num keypad. If you press Control and digit 1 from this num keypad, it will not work. Next, if you are working with a date and you wish to get today's date on a single cell, you click on a cell and then press Control semicolon. It quickly gives today's date, which in this case happens to be 2nd of February 2014. Let me press enter and there you go, you have today's date. Not only that, this is a format you may approve of a format which says to FEB 2014, in which case if you keep the cell selected and press Control Shift digit 3, Control Shift and 3, it quickly changes that in what format? DD MMMYY format. So a combination of these 2 shortcut keys I use quite often to give a date, today's date, and then making sure the format is the one which I desire, which looks good on the printout. Next, if you are working with a series of numbers, let's say I'm putting some numbers, there you go, and you wish to apply comma style, which we do using this million separator. So what you might as well do as an alternative is press Alt key, press the H key from the keyboard so as to activate the home tab, and once you do that, notice that letter K is the one which is indicated by the comma style. So I press K, and there you go, all the numbers in million separator. Not only that, if you wish to reduce the decimals, then do what? Alt, letter H, then notice the digit 9 is the one which is indicating decreased decimals. So I press 9. So Alt H9 once again, and it shows me whole number with no decimals. So there you go. This is the same shortcut key which I was speaking about in one of the initial videos where I explained you the benefits of using Alt and then following the key tips. Apart from this, a couple of miscellaneous shortcut keys are, if you press Ctrl F2, it quickly gives you the print preview. And a lot of us, while working with Excel before taking a printout, would like to use this shortcut key. Ctrl F1, if I press Ctrl F1, it quickly hides the ribbon. If I press Ctrl F1 again, it quickly brings it back. Apart from using shortcut key, you can also double click on any tab, it hides the ribbon, and double click again, it brings back the ribbon. So this is if you want to increase your working area and want to see more numbers without getting interfered while the ribbon is still on. Finally, let me talk about a shortcut key which I have been using a lot in data cleaning and formatting, Alt semicolon. Now what does it do? Let me go to sample data where I will show you the benefits of this shortcut key. Let's assume Jan till June, you have a very simple list of months. I'm going to hide two particular rows. So I say hide and I choose the entire block. I just want to color those cells which are visible to me right now. So what do? I select the cells, I go to home, and then I pick up the color. Well, if I now unhide the rows which I had hidden, notice the cells which were hidden also got colored. So what are the alternatives before me? Well, I'll bring back the data, I will hide it again, then let me choose the entire block and I will press the shortcut key which is mentioned on top. This is called Alt semicolon. The benefit is it only chooses cells which are currently visible, and then if you apply the color yellow, as I unhide the remaining rows back, notice the color doesn't get applied to the cells which were hidden. So Alt semicolon for choosing visible cells. Practice all this and trust me, as you work with Excel more and more, these shortcut keys are going to save a lot of time. In this video, we will learn about the 10 must-know Excel shortcut keys. Let's start. First, control page up and page down to toggle between sheets. Suppose you're working in a workbook which has multiple worksheets and you wish to toggle either from left to right or from right to left. In that case, press Control Page Down. Notice how it toggles between one sheet to the next. If you wish to go back, press Control Page Up. So if you're sitting idle and getting bored, you can do that all day long. So after Control Page Up, Page Down, we move to the next shortcut key, that is Control and the arrow keys. It allows you to navigate between the data set. Suppose your cursor is on DOJ and you wish to navigate all the way to the last cell edge. From there, you wish to scroll down and possibly reach to the last very end of the data set. To do so, let's start from the cell containing DOJ. Press Control right arrow key, Control down. It stops where there is a blank cell. You can keep pressing Control down arrow key to jump over and keep navigating across the work data. Similarly, Control up will take you to the top, and if there's a space, it stops. You keep pressing Control up until you reach to the header. So that was a shortcut key, Control arrow. Next, we will now see how do you choose the data set from a given table. We'll be using Control Shift and the arrow keys. Now a lot of people tell me, why don't we choose a cell and press Control A? Well, you can do that, but Control A will not let you choose the entire data set if there is a blank space. So you start from DOJ, then press Control Shift, keep it pressed, and then click on the right arrow key. It chooses the entire header in our case. Next, keep Control Shift pressed and then down. This way you can keep moving downwards and keep selecting your data. By any chance, if you took any extra selection, you can still go back by pressing Ctrl Shift up arrow key. Now at this point you might ask me how to go to the top of the data set without using the scroll bar option, which is a manual method. Well, in that case, press Ctrl Backspace key. There's a high probability that you would not have known this, right? So let me show this very quickly again. Shift Ctrl right, Shift Ctrl down until you reach to the last end of the data set. Then Ctrl Backspace key. So after having learned the use of Ctrl Shift arrow keys, we also learnt about the utility of Ctrl Backspace key. Next, Ctrl Spacebar to choose the entire column and Shift Spacebar to choose the entire row. Let me show a demo. Suppose you are in cell G9. If you press Shift Spacebar, it chooses the entire row, and if you choose Ctrl Spacebar as a shortcut key, it chooses the entire column. By themselves, these two shortcut keys are not that useful until you combine them with Ctrl Minus to delete or Ctrl Shift Plus to add rows or columns. Let me give you a demo. Suppose you wish to delete the dummy column, right? So I keep a cell from the dummy column chosen, then I press Ctrl Spacebar, and then I will be pressing Ctrl Minus. Noticed the entire column got deleted. Similarly, if you wish to delete row number 9, one of the cells of row number 9 should be chosen. Then you press Shift Spacebar and then Ctrl Minus. Now, if you wish to add a column before base salary, then you choose the entire column using Ctrl Spacebar. And after doing that, press Ctrl Shift Plus. See how easily you were able to add a column. Trust me, when people start looking at your screen, especially how fast you are navigating with the shortcut keys, that's a different respect. So do practice all these. So after seeing the utility of Ctrl Spacebar, Shift Spacebar, and then followed by Ctrl Minus and Ctrl Shift Plus, we will now move to the next shortcut key, which is one of my favorite shortcuts. That is Ctrl Backtick key to show off all the formulas of the current worksheet. Now, in column D where I see bonus 1, I see a calculation being done. Each of these people have been given a certain percentage of bonus based on the base salary. Now, there are so many formulas and I wish to see all of them in one single instance. Then you press that shortcut key, Ctrl and Backtick key. Notice how easily you are able to see all the formula. So this shortcut key will reveal all the formulas of the current worksheet wherever they are. You can press the same shortcut key to go back to the previous state. People working with financial models and costing calculation sheets would love this. Next, Alt-ES to activate paste special. So if you have copied the data and you wish to do a paste special, then Alt followed by the letter E and then S. This will give you access to paste special box, which has many more other options. The most popular ones are values, formats, and transpose. So for example, in this current column of bonus calculation, if the column C or the base salary gets deleted, the entire bonus computation will become 0. Now I don't want that. I want these values to be pasted as a standalone value which are not dependent on any formula. So what I do, I copy a sample bonus calculation, Ctrl C, I go to the next cell of column E, then I press Alt, then letter E, then letter S. So it's Alt Elephant Sun. Now do not try to press all these keys at the same time. You have to press this one at a time. Alt ES. Now within paste special, you will see each options being underlined by a letter. For example, for values, the letter underline is V. So after pressing Alt ES and activating paste special, I'll be pressing the letter V to activate values option, and then I'll press enter. Now, even if I delete the base salary, look at the bonus 2. This does not become 0. Reason? Because they have been converted to a proper value compared to bonus 1, which was based on a calculation. So that was Alt ES to activate paste special, and then using V for value, T for formats, and E for transpose. Of course, pressing enter after that. So I hope you got a sense of all the 10 must-know Excel shortcut keys. I'm keeping all the shortcut keys on the screen so that you can pause the video and revise all of them. Here comes another series of ninja level shortcut keys. So this time I want you to notice how do I insert columns and rows using shortcut key. Let's say I want to insert a column between column B and column C. So what I do is I am going to press 3 shortcut keys one at a time. So I'm not going to press all the 3 keys at the same time. It's going to be 1, then second key, and then the third key. So after having placed my cursor on the column before which I want to add another column, I press Alt, I, and then C. Quickly it adds up a column. Similarly, if you want to insert a row in between a couple of rows, then you will use a similar strategy. You'll press Alt, I, and then R. So there you go, it inserts an extra row in between. Now these shortcut keys are pertaining to 2003 version of Excel, although they still work in 2010, 7 and 13 version of Excel. In case, as an additional to the entire portion, in case you want to select the entire column or row, notice if I press Ctrl Spacebar, it chooses the entire column. Similarly, if I place my cursor on any one cell and if I press Shift Spacebar, it includes in its selection the entire row. So these shortcut keys, find them mentioned where in the previous sheet. So the one that we have used in this particular video is Alt-IC, Alt-IR. We also spoke about Shift Spacebar and Control Spacebar. Apart from this, as an alternative to Alt-IC, instead of inserting a column through Alt-IC, you perhaps can also use this shortcut key of Shift Control plus sign. If you choose the entire column and if you press Ctrl Shift plus sign, it adds another column. Let me just delete a couple of these columns, too much of a burden. And once I do that, let me also talk about a slight difference between Alt-IC that inserts a column and Ctrl Shift plus. If you put your cursor on any one cell, not choosing a column separately, just one cell, and if you then press Ctrl Shift plus, it asks you that whether you want to insert a cell, whether you want to insert an entire row, or whether you want to insert an entire column. So this option then allows you to choose between the 4 options and then decide after pressing enter. So what Alt-IC is doing is just adding a pure column. Alt-IR is adding a pure row, but Ctrl Shift plus will give you the option how you would want to proceed. Well, as in a final nail on the coffin, if you want to delete the entire row, you might also use Ctrl Minus. What Ctrl Minus tells you is you want to delete the row or column or cell. In this case, I choose entire row and I press enter. So there you go. These are a couple of shortcut keys which will help you manipulate the data, columns, rows, and work with different workbooks, worksheets in a little bit faster mode. I hope you enjoyed our YouTube videos, and I really appreciate that if you could subscribe to our videos, which will also encourage me to give more such videos in the times to come. And you can also watch some of our popular programs which have been liked by a lot of viewers. See you soon. In this continued series of ninja level shortcut keys, let me walk you through some of the shortcut keys which relate to workbook navigation, sheet navigation, and cell or cells selection. And in between, I'll throw some of the very important shortcut keys which you would normally not find, even the advanced users of Excel using those. So let's go with certain base data. Now you notice the first thing I have on my workbook is a couple of worksheets. Some are old, some I have generated right now. If you want to toggle between the different sheets, you might want to use Control Page Up, PGUP, and Page Down, Control PgDn. So this is a shortcut key which actually helps you toggle between the different sheets, especially in case if you're working with multiple worksheets. Now let me take a test data before I talk about other shortcut keys. Let me go to sample data 1, which you will also find in the Excel case study file. The advantage with us is that you have both the videos, the trainer with you, and the Excel case studies to practice on. So let's go ahead. First things first, if you work with data, the primary step is to choose the data before you can apply sort, filter, or pivot table, isn't it? Now, given the data we have, I wish to apply a certain filter. Now to do that, I must choose the data. Now if I place my cursor on any one cell and press Ctrl A, notice it chooses the data, but it stops at the point where there is a blank row. So to circumvent this, I will take you through another series of shortcut key which will help you select the data. So I place my cursor on the orange cell and I keep Shift Ctrl pressed. With my left hand, I'm keeping Shift Ctrl pressed. Keeping it pressed, now let me put my right hand side finger on the right arrow key. What it does, it quickly selects the data on one direction, that is the right direction. Then keeping Shift Ctrl pressed, I pull the down arrow key, down arrow key, down arrow key, down arrow key, and I'll continue till the last line of the data. Now, although it helps you in selecting the data, but notice since there are so many blanks, it is actually making your life worse. So now let me again take you to a shortcut key which is going to help solve this problem. So put your cursor on the orange cell. We will not be using Ctrl Shift right and down. Instead, we'll be using Shift Ctrl End key. Now what is Shift Ctrl End key doing? If I take you to a blank worksheet and if I write some letter, let's say A, B and letter C or maybe D, notice this cell has been the last used cell of this worksheet. Now even if I delete that particular letter and then place my cursor on letter A, and then if I press Shift Ctrl End key, it takes my selection right from active cell to the last used cell. So I used this trick. Why? Because orange cell was the active cell and Shift Ctrl End key helped me take the selection to the last used cell. Now at times it may happen there could be other cells which have been used previously and there is no data. So if you intend to apply Shift Ctrl End key, it will take your selection to the last cell. Now, a couple of things. This has allowed you to skip the blanks and choose the last cell. But wait, you do not want to choose the cells, in fact columns of B, F, G, H, I and J. So what do? We want to reduce the selection. So one step at a time. Shift key pressed and then left, 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 left. Now only 3 columns have been chosen. Now what Shift right, right or left does is it allows you to select one column or row at a time in terms of direction you are taking. At the same time you would say, look, I've chosen the data but I want to go back to the header, right? So if I press Ctrl Backspace key, notice the data is still selected and yet your selection appears to be taking you to the header. Because I've seen people, what they do, once they've selected the data, they use the scroll bar on the right to reach to the header of the data. This could be painful task, especially if you're working with really large data. So just summarizing, what have we learned? We talked about Ctrl A, we talked about Shift Ctrl right, down, down, and better than that, on occasions we also use Shift Ctrl End key. In terms of selection, reducing the selection, Shift left, 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 and Ctrl Backspace key to help me go to the header. More shortcuts on way as you go to the next video. I hope you enjoyed our YouTube videos and I really appreciate that if you could subscribe to our videos, which will also encourage me to give more such videos in the times to come. And you can also watch some of our popular programs which have been liked by a lot of viewers. See you soon.
In this video session, we'll talk about 2 components of Excel. One is PMT Formula, which is often used to find the easy monthly installments for any loan that you have taken in the past or wish to take in the future. And Goal Seek. How do you back calculate certain desired numbers? So first, let me look at the various variables which are going to go into the ingredients of this recipe. The first thing, I have loan amount, interest percentage, and the duration. That means in 2 years flat I'm going to pay these loan back fully. And this one variable which is going to be a part of the formula which says if you want to pay towards the end of the month, then the input should be 0 else 1. Now let me write the PMT formula equal to PMT. I go to the FX button, insert function, click on it. Now notice I am writing equal to PMT and then opening the brackets and then going to FX button. If you had not opened the brackets or parenthesis and if you then go to FX, it will not lead you directly to the PMT formula. So equal to PMT, pressing tab key, clicking on FX button. Now rate, choosing the cell containing the percentage, annual interest percentage, divide by 12. Thereafter number of period which indicates the duration, and this to make it consistent with the formula inputs I'm going to multiply with 12. you are paying monthly installments. Present value, I am getting a loan worth of 5 lakhs today's term, and that's the present value. There are two other optional conditions which if I want I can ignore for the time being. So I press OK. Whoa, I get an amount of 23,771. That is the monthly check amount that you need to deposit towards the bank loan repayment. Now let's for a moment assume that you have another loan in the backdrop and you only have 20,000 per month as disposable income, which you can use this to service the debt. Now how do I know that how do I increase the duration to, let's say, 2.5 years or 2.6 years or 3 years? What is the exact number of years at which point the exact EMI going to be 20,000? So let's find out. I keep my cursor on the cell which contains the amount of EMI. I then go to data, what if analysis, and let me click on goal seek. I click on goal seek. So I say set this cell, the cell containing the calculation for the PMT, to what value. Now notice it doesn't say cell, which means you cannot choose another cell. It'll give you an error. It has to be a value which needs to be hard coded. So I wish to write minus 20,000. Why so? Because this is a outflow. This is a cash outflow which is going out of the pocket, hence minus 20,000. So be careful about that. Set this cell, the one containing PMT formula, to a value of negative 20,000 by changing with cell, by changing let's say amount. Let's see what comes up next as I press OK. It says it has back calculated. Goal seek has found the solution. Do you want to keep the solution? I say OK. So basically, if you have 20,000 disposable income for the loan repayment and you wish to pay this back in 2.5 years, then this is the amount of loan that you can avail against these money variables. On the other hand, let's say I want to take only 5 lakh worth of loan. I press Ctrl Z to bring it back. Now I want to see exactly in how many years can I repay the loan back in if 20,000 is the amount I can pay towards the loan repayment. So I go back to goal seek again. I say set this cell to negative 20,000. If you write a positive 20,000, it will go in an indefinite loop, which you would not want. So we go ahead by saying by changing cell, and this time we take the cell containing the duration. Okay. It back calculates and it tells you in exactly 2.44 years is when you'll be able to repay the loan back if you are paying it in the installment of 20,000 each every month. So that was goal seek, that was PMT formula, often used for back calculation.
This is for those who are using sort for quite some time. I have a challenge before you, and the data is such that you have a list of the different region, north, east, west and south. Now you have to convert this data into the output which I have given on the right hand side. That is, you need to insert a blank row after every line item. Now imagine if you're given a data which spans over 1000 rows and you were to do this through traditional method, how would you proceed? You would select the entire row, right click, insert a row, or better still you might say choose the next row and press Ctrl Shift plus sign. This will add another row. Or else you might also tell me, look, I already know about a shortcut key which repeats my last action, which is function key F4. But all these techniques are manual, because for 1000 rows you have to repeat those steps 1000 times. So I need us to learn a technique which allows us to quickly create those additional blank rows between every line item, and that too quickly, irrespective of the data line and length. I would want that you pause the video, ponder over this challenge, and after you have given a thought, then we'll see what the solution is. Please pause the video. So what happened? Did you try it? Okay. If you had trouble in finding the solution, let me share the solution with you. Now the trick to be able to explain the trick, let me just simply copy this data to an extra blank sheet. Yep, there you go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another row heading which is called dummy serial number. This only for our reference purpose, dummy serial number. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put 1, I'm going to put 2 thereafter, and selecting both 1 and 2, I'm going to double click at the bottom right of the selection so that you get a perfect list of serial numbers. Now, whenever you double click, all the serial number that gets generated is already selected. So I need to copy that, I need to paste that. What happens as I reduce the zoom factor? You'll notice the serial numbers have come up 2 times because you copy pasted. Now when I choose the entire list, I'll go to data, I'll go to sort, and I'll say please sort by dummy serial number. Imagine what is going to happen if I sort the list by the column of dummy serial number in the smallest to largest format. The ones and the ones are going to be together, followed by 2s and 2s and 3s and 3s, and so on and so forth. As I press OK, whoop, this is what we were looking for. Quickly you are able to add an extra blank row in your data, and you take the same time irrespective of how big the data is. So try it, a super special trick with respect to sorting. I hope you enjoyed our YouTube videos, and I really appreciate that if you could subscribe to our videos, which will also encourage me to give more such videos in the times to come. And you can also watch some of our popular programs which have been liked by a lot of viewers. See you soon. This time we talk about round formula and its applications in finance, accounting, MIS reporting, and strategic decision making. Now, majority of you may have worked with round formula at the basic level. So I'll just take few moments to quickly brush up the basics, but then I need to delve deep inside the tricky part of round formula and how a certain trick will help solve problems which otherwise mRound or any such rounding formula will not be able to do so. So now, looking at the formula round, it has 2 parameters, number and num digits. Well, if you are given a number, which I have made bold and underlined right now, and you're told that I want to round this number to the nearest whole number. Now quite often you go to home tab, you apply this comma style and reduce the decimal. It changes the display to 55, but mind you, if I multiply 1000 to this 55, it doesn't give you 55,000. It gives you that original number multiplied with 1000. So this particular trick is just for display value change, not for actual number conversion. So for that, we take the help of ROU, equal to ROU. As I write equal to ROU, I'll press the tab key. Once I do so, let me choose the original number. In this case, the cell which is blinking right now, comma. The next parameter, although it says num digits, but the actual meaning is number of decimal digits. How many number of decimal digits would you want to display in the final answer? If I say 0, it means no number of decimal digits, and hence the number has been rounded off to the nearest whole number. Had I told it 1, then yes, I would have received 54.60. So if you want actual decimal in your answer, just need to give 1 or 2 or 3 depending on the number of decimal places you wish to have in your final answer. This was the basics of round formula. Now, the basics of round down and round up formula, here it goes. If you have been parking your car in a certain mall and that's for maybe 2.2 hours, you are charged for 3 hours flat. It doesn't matter whether it was 2 hours 1 minute or 2 minutes or 5 minutes. Unless your negotiation skills are really good, they will charge you for 3 hours. So the meaning here is round up. Now how do I achieve that? Let me delete this cell where the solution is also provided. I will say equal to ROU and then choosing round up from the down arrow key, pressing the tab key. Now the strategy is almost the same as round formula. I got to choose a number and then I will say 0, which indicates what? Whole number, no decimals, and what we get is rounded up. Similarly, on occasions when we talk about piece wage rate system, where a particular worker is paid based on the complete units of product that he has prepared or made. In this case, he may have made 24.8 units of a toy. The 20% is still left, in which case he should be paid for just 24 units. The remaining units he can make and finish tomorrow or the next day, and then he gets paid for the next remaining unit. So in this case, the logic is round down. Pay for the units which has been completed, round down. So formula which is very similar to the previous one, round down. I choose the number and then comma 0 ensures that this is rounded down. So this was the basics of round, round up and round down. But for people who have been using Excel for more than 5 years or 10 years, I would certainly recommend that you watch the next video, which is on a specific trick on round formula. See you there. This time we talk about a formula or a trick which allows you to multiply 5 into 5 into 5 into 5 using a simple trick. So if you are thinking of multiplying certain number of times, do not apply this old traditional trick where you have to put in the same number a couple of times. No, although it will give you the answer, but this is rather tedious. Rather than using this trick, I would ask you to put that digit 5, put shift 6 in place, that will give the caret sign, which is to the power sign as per Excel, and then put the digit 4. So 5 to the power 4 is 625. The same thing can also be achieved using a formula, although people rarely use this, but they may write the formula power, which asks for number and then asks for the power component. That means to the power what? 4, 625. Where is this used? Quite often in the area of corporate finance and valuation, where compounding, discounting, annuity, all these are very normal calculations. So in this case, I have certain cash invested in a certain project. Let's say today, $5,000. The rate of return that I'm expecting is 10%. And I wish to find out that at the end of year 1, at the end of year 2, or year 3, or year 4, or year 5, how much money would I be left with if I keep the money invested. So I'm choosing equal to formula, choosing the cell containing $5,000, pressing F4 to ensuring it's fixed, locked, multiplied with, within brackets, 1 plus what? Rate of return being 10%. I fixed that too. Then comes the trick part. To the power what? To the power 1. So this is the formula which normally finance professionals do apply for compounding. So at the end of year 1, 5,000, which is the principal, plus 10% return, that happens to be 500, all added up and given to you 5,500. But then you ask yourself, I wish to keep this money invested for another year. And let's see how much money would you find at the end of year 2. So the same formula, if I copy paste the next cell, it says 5500 plus 550, that happens to be how much? 6050. So if I copy paste the formula either through the cell drag autofill option, or I may simply choose shift right and press Ctrl, yes, Ctrl R. So I'm able to find out through this to the power sign that at the end of year 3 or year 4 or 5, how much money would I be left with if I keep the money invested. So that was it to the power sign. This time we talk about a formula, EOMONTH, something that is going to be very useful in case you are in any manner connected to the field of finance, financial modeling, investment banking, accounting, taxation, and you'll soon find out why. Before discussing this formula, let me illustrate some of the questions. Question number 1. At a hypothetical level, what if I want to find out end of the current month, the month to which the date pertains to? That was case number 1. So for example, I wish to have 31st December 2012 here. So sorry, my mistake, 31st January 2012. Then I wish to have 30th September 2010. It's the end of the current month. Case number 2. What if I tell you that these are the invoice dates and the tax related to these invoices must be submitted by 5th of the next month. So I wish to have the details 5 of FEB 2012. I wish to have 5th of March 2011 in this case, and so on. That was case study 2. Case 3, where if I given certain dates, I wish to find out first of the current month. So in this case, 1st of September 2014. Now all this can be achieved through the formula of EOMONTH. So let me take case by case basis. First case, I want end of current month. So I write equal to EOM. I press the tab key. I choose the starting date, and then it asks me how many months do you want to jump ahead before you find the end of the month. I say 0. Why 0? Because had I given 1, it would have said for this particular date 17th January to 17th February and then finding the end of that 17th February date. So right now I want 31st Jan. Let me test with 1. Enter. You get 29th of Feb. Why? 17th January, jump 1 month ahead and you get end of the month 29 Feb. Case 2. I want 5th of next month. So how do I achieve this? I write equal to EOM. I press the tab key. I choose the starting date and then I put 0. As expected, it's going to give me end of the current month. But wait, I'm just going to add +5 towards the formula end, and that will give me what? Yes, 5th of next month. Notice any kind of calculation which involves 5th of next month, 7th of next month, 15th of next month, you can apply this formula. Case 3, where if you want to find out 1st of the current month, 1st of current month. So how do I put that formula in? Let me write equal to EOM, tab key. I choose the starting date. Now I give -1. What is -1 going to give me? Well, it's going to give me 31st of August 2014 in this case, which means it is jumping back 1 month, saying from 23rd September to 23rd of August, and then 23rd of August it takes as a benchmark and then finds the end of that month. Now, this is not the answer. The final answer is when I simply add an additional 1 day towards the end of this formula, which means now 1st of September 2014. So notice how these combination can quickly change the scenario using simple formula EOMONTH. Practice this and trust me, once in a while you will get to use this.
In this small video session, we'll talk about how to group and ungroup columns and rows. Now what do I mean by that? Let's see for ourselves. Imagine if you have a data which is broken down into quarterly breakup. So for example, 2010 total sales has been broken down into 4 quarterly sales numbers, and at times you would not want to show these details to the user. So you'd want to place a button which quickly hides and unhides these columns. This is significantly better than simply hiding the column. Why? Because in that case the user, the end user, has to selectively choose the adjoining columns which are visible and then right click and say unhide. So rather than taking him through these hardships, why not just apply this grouping? Let's see how. First, I will choose the 4 columns which I want to hide and make it a part of the grouped numbers. I go to Data tab, within which on the right hand side let me go to the group button and simply click on group. Instantly it puts a button on top right and it has the minus sign, which if I click upon, it simply hides it. If you want to bring it back to the original scenario, remember to first unhide the data, choose the same 4 columns and then go to ungroup. Now at times if you selectively choose certain cells and not columns, then there's a slight difference in strategy. For example, in this case I have chosen the 4 columns cells, not the entire columns. I then go to Data tab, I go to Group and I click on the Group button. Now since I did not choose the entire set of columns, Excel is confused. It asks me for clarification whether do I want to group the rows or columns. At this moment let me choose columns. I press OK. Same effect as we had seen few moments back. Now you can have the same effect for rows as well. So if you have a particular region under which several cities are mentioned, you want to group them row wise. So I choose the 2 rows, these are the cities names. I then go to Data and I then go to Group option. So if you happen to use this frequently, I would definitely want to share 2 shortcut tricks with you, which is how do you select the entire column and how do you select the entire row. I select a particular cell, I press Shift Spacebar. If I continue to press Shift down, 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 it selects the entire rows thereafter. Else, if you press Ctrl Spacebar, it chooses the entire column, and then you can use Shift right, right, right and left to be able to choose the adjoining columns. And then of course you can go ahead to data and click on group. So this was all about group and ungrouping of columns and rows.
Well, this time let me present before you a challenge which was posted recently by one of our subscribers to our email ID, and this goes like this. You have one column which mentions login ID, so I have trimmed the data. This is hypothetical data, but the data looked somewhat similar like this. In one column login ID, the second column belongs to access codes, and third some kind of a description code. Now, the user wanted that this entire piece of data should be reframed and copy pasted like this, what I've shown in terms of output. If you could go to the output sheet, you will notice that the first line item, the person had to copy. He had to apply two techniques. One is paste special value and the second one is transpose, so that it gets copy pasted one after another. And he had to do that for all the items. There are more than 600 items. This is just 50 of them. So paste special, value, transpose. Now he was thinking of applying macros to do that. But yeah, it can be done with macros, but that will involve a certain bit of coding knowledge, which of course if you have, please employ that. Even if you have it, then it will also employ some kind of a testing time. Now this could be a one-time exercise. I don't want to spend that much amount of time on coding and testing. So I want you to pause the video and think of a possible solution that doesn't require any coding language in VBA. Assuming you had paused the video and had tried it on your own, let me now show you the solution. And trust me, this is not going to take more than few seconds, at max a minute if you're really slow. But along the way, I must also tell you the logic with which I had solved it. So what did I do? I went to the input, I chose the entire piece of data starting from the first line, Shift Ctrl down, copied it. By the way, if you want to go back to the header, Ctrl Backspace is the shortcut key. So after having copied it, I'm going to the sheet called practice and I'm going to paste it using paste special, value and transpose. Okay. Now this is not the desired results. I would want that all these pieces of data should be pasted vertically one after another. Now how did I do that? First, I wanted to find out how many instances are there. So if I use Shift Ctrl right, at the bottom of the status bar, I get to see it's around 50. Okay, and 50 into 3 times, that means 150 items. 150 line items should be present in my final output. So what do? I'm just calculating this in Excel, although this is a very simple calculation, but just to show you how it works, 150 line items. Now, what I want to do is I want to go to the 150th row item. How do I go there quickly? I go to the top left panel of my screen, which is called name box. I put in A150, enter. Now I'm going to put a simple letter X. This is just to have an obstacle which will stop my selection till this row if I use Shift Ctrl down or Ctrl D. So after having put in a letter X, let me press Ctrl up arrow key. Now imagine if I were to write a formula like this, it will surely pick up the next column's value, correct? And the fourth character will be 0. Why? Because it's pointing to a cell which is blank. Now why is that blank? Because there is no formula. If I put equal to here, what would it say? It's creating a chain. So I want to build a chain like this for the entire column A, right where column D may be giving values to column C is in turn giving values to column B, and finally it gets flowed down to column A. So what do? I go back one step. I put an equal to sign. I put that cursor on B1 in this case, enter. Now this particular formula, Shift Ctrl down is the key that I'm pressing. I'm pressing Ctrl D, which immediately copy paste the entire formula. If you want to go back to the top of the header, you may press Ctrl Backspace key. Now if you wish to copy the formula till the right hand side, Shift Ctrl End key. What Shift Ctrl End key does is it takes your selection right from the active cell to the last used cell. And if you want to go back to the header, again Ctrl Backspace key. Now notice Since the initial column A is already selected, if I press Ctrl R, it copy pastes the entire formula. And now you notice in column A, the chain that we have been able to bring has already given us the answer. So what I do, I quickly choose this column A, copy that and use a paste special value. And do I need the remaining columns? Of course not. So column B onwards, Shift Ctrl right, Ctrl Minus, all gets deleted, and this is your answer. So technically speaking, if I do a very quick snapshot, how would it look? It will look like how fast it's going to get copy pasted. So I copy that, I go to sheet 5, Alt ESE, enter. Next, I've counted 150 items, so I go to A150, put in X, Control up. Next, I put a simple formula equal to the next column's first cell, Shift Control down, Control D, Shift Control End key and Control R, then Ctrl Backspace key. Notice my answer is already there. So just column A copied and Alt ESV, enter, and remaining column B onwards, Shift Control right, Control Minus. So that's how long it took me to answer that question. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you want more such Yoda hack videos, please subscribe to our channel, and I'm sure you'll learn more and more such tricks in times to come. Thank you.
Today we are going to talk about how to remove duplicate from the data sheet. However, there are many options in Excel, but in this video we will only focus on the data duplicate function, which is available from 2007 onward version. So first of all, we will go with the simple data which contains only the airport name. In that table we observe that there is a duplication of the name 108 mile rank. These are the names which are duplicated twice in a particular table, and the another one is test rep, which is repeated thrice. So now what we can do is select the data which are visible that they are repeated. We will select it and right click and we will delete it, but this method won't hold good when the data is in huge quantity. So now first I will press Ctrl Z, and how to use the remove duplicate function on this data we will see. First, click on any cell of this data or of this table, or you may select the data. It will not make any difference. Then I will go to data tab. Here you can see the remove duplicate function. I will click on remove duplicate. The pop-up or a dialog box of remove duplicate will come out. Check on my data has header, and then there is option which represents the column of the table, that is airport name. Check on that, then press OK. As you can see, the 3 duplicate values are being found and removed. 7 unique values have remained. Press OK. Now you observe that there is only one name which contains 108 mile rank in this particular sheet, and the test rep is not repeated thrice, but it is only once. So now let me go to the next sheet with another example. Here you observe there is a table which contains airport name, but also it have city name, country name and airport code. Further, if you observe, we came to know that the row number 4 contains airport name of 108 mile rank, which have airport code of 125. Row number 5 contain airport name of 108 mile rank, which have airport code of 126. It shows that in Canada there are 2 airports which have unique code, which have unique airport code of 125 and 126. Further, you may observe the 125, the airport code 125 is repeating twice in the table. Where? Over here. You came to know that in Germany also there is one another airport which have the airport code of 125. Then we may take the assumption that there are 2 airport codes, that is 125 and 125, which are in existence, and both the data, that is row number 6 and row number 5, are unique. Hence we want to remove the duplicate in such a way that both the data should exist after applying the remove duplicate function. Further, if we observe, we came to know that the test rep data is repeated, which have airport code of 130. Further, in Norway, test rep having the airport code of 130, which definitely and clearly shows that this data is repeated twice. But in Denmark, test rep which have airport code of 131, which shows the unique value. So we want to remove the duplicate in such a way that this data and this data should remain in our in our table after application of remove duplicate function. So now we came to know that the unique value in this table is not only the airport code but also the airport name, because if we remove the duplicate which contains the unique value of only airport code, then it will remove the data which contains same airport code, means it will remove row number 4 and row number 5. It will remove either of the data, row number 4 or row number 6, but in our table they are unique value, so we have to remove the duplicate such a way that it contains unique value of airport code and airport name. Now first I will select the data by Ctrl Shift right arrow, Ctrl Shift down arrow. I will go to data tab, click on the remove duplicate function. Dialog box of remove duplicate will appear, and over here I will check on the airport name, check off city name, check off the country name because they are not the unique value of the table, and I will check on the airport code and I will click OK. We came to know that one duplicate value is found and removed. Which one was that? It was a tester which have the airport code of 130, which was over here on the 11th row, but right now after remove duplicate function it is removed and only the unique value are there in our table. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed our YouTube videos, and I really appreciate that if you could subscribe to our videos, which will also encourage me to give more such videos in the times to come. And you can also watch some of our popular programs which have been liked by a lot of viewers. See you soon.
This video session will talk about the quick logical formula checks which are available to us, which later we are going to combine with if logical statement to derive multiple calculations and reports. The couple of formulas we're going to focus on is blank, is error, is NA, is number, is text, and two new formula which has been introduced in 2013 version of Excel. Those are is formula and is ref. Let's see what they do. Now in the first column I have some test data and I have written an indicative formula besides them. So for example, if you work with numbers and you want to find out amongst a group of 10,000 values, is everyone a number? So you can use the formula is number. In fact, let me just make sure I add an additional column and make sure the font is black so that we can all look at it clearly. So equal to is number. I press tab key and I choose the cell containing the number, closing the bracket, enter. So if it is a number, it will show you as true. Now by any chance if you had put a single quote before the 1984, it will show you as false, which indicates it's not being seen as number from Excel side. On the other hand, we also have a formula called is text, and that you can use to find whether a cell value is a text or not. On the other hand, we have a couple of errors which we put together under one common umbrella under the formula of is error. So is error, whichever error it is there in Excel, it will say true. There you go, all of them are true. Now specifically for two given errors, that is NA and ref error, we have two separate formulas called is NA, and they only detect whether the formula error is an NA. Now had I asked the same question is NA to one of the other formula errors, it would have shown me false. Similarly, I have something called ISREF. Now this ISREF has been a newly introduced formula. I check out this cell, close the brackets, enter. So these are formula which just validates whether they meet a certain condition. Is number, is text, is error, is NA, is ref. There's something new which is very fascinating included in Excel 2013, and that is formula. Sometimes we want to find out whether amongst 10,000 cells is everything which is supposed to be a formula is a formula. So is formula tells you exactly that. Now since this is equal to 2 plus 2, it says is formula. Had I written 4 by hand, it says false. So these are a couple of formulas which we are going to build into our if logical statement to achieve more. In short, you'll be able to look at the reference sheet which will tell you what is number used for. It is often used to check validity of dates. If you watch our videos on dates, the concept of date, you'll notice every valid date is a number from Excel's point of view. So if you're writing something called 22/07/2009 and the control panel settings suggest that you must enter the date in MDY format, which means Excel will not be able to read this as date, and you can find that out using ISNUMBER. Is this a number? It's not, hence cannot be read by Excel. Had I written the same thing 07/22/2009, it would have told me true. So if you want to discuss more on the logic behind this ISNUMBER formula used for date, please watch our videos on dates. And as discussed earlier, it is also used to check whether a displayed number which looks like a number, whether it's actually a number, whether it's actually stored as a number. So we'll see in other case studies how do we use ISERROR, ISBLANK, and so on and so forth. Sometimes with respect to ISBLANK, you'll also notice there are certain cells which look blank, but since there's one space which you and I cannot see, that can be detected by either ISBLANK or LEN formula. LEN will also capture the length of one character, which is one space. So that was just a group of formula which we'll use later in our case studies.
In this video, we'll talk about pivot table, and if you have not worked with pivot table before, you will love this new feature of Excel. And even if you have been a user of pivot table, I'll show you some of the tricks which are going to be extremely beneficial. A lot of people ask me why should they invest time in learning pivot table. Well, in this video, in a very fast manner, I'm going to show the various features and how it can help you in your work. So if you are interested in knowing the details, you will have to watch the other videos, but right now let me take you through a roller coaster ride. Talking about an organization's employee database, their date of joining, name, salary, division, rating, and age. So primarily I've taken a data which spans over roughly 400 row items, and I want certain reports to be generated out of it. So I press Ctrl A, I go to insert, I go to pivot table. Okay, now mind you, this is a very fast track video just to show what are the possibilities in pivot table on an overall basis. So once I go there, I activate one setting, the details and the logic of which I'll share this in my next few videos. At this moment, let me show you the report that I'll be starting with. So I want division wise salary details in terms of how much salary cost has been incurred by this organization. I may not only want salary, but also that how many people are working in the organization. There you go. Not only that, I also want the average salary per employee per division. Maybe that gives an hint that which division should I target for. So once I get the answers, I'm going to quickly format this data, and once I do so, this is your report talking about total salary, average salary per employee, and the count of people working in each division. Now, I may want that the same numbers which you get to see may be presented in percentage form. So yes, within a few clicks, I go to an option which allows me to show the percentage. And there you go. If there are 100% people working in the organization, then 35% of them are working with RAD. And I also have the facility to sort it based on the highest to lowest category, which means the one which is heavily staffed and the one which is sparsely staffed. So this was report 1. Report number 2, and this is going to be something an eye-opener if you have been using pivot table and did not get time to explore more. So what I do, I pick up salary, I pick up age, and I use a certain technique which allows me to group this salary and age in the manner which I wish to. So eventually what's going to happen is I can find out how many people in my organization, 417, and that too in which age category group and in which salary bracket. Not only that, I may wish to find out what has been the sequence of recruitment, what has been the trend for recruitment. So I may as well as use DOJ, date of joining, group it, and once I do so, I choose months and years both, and whoop, I get a report which tells me year wise, month wise, people who would perhaps be joining this organization. Not only that, I can prepare a report which may exhibit itself like this. So year wise, month wise, a proper trend. Not only that, I may also want to see how has January been in terms of recruitment for different years. And if somebody likes this particular report, of course, he would want to see this report being generated for each of his departments. So I use a certain techniques which quickly allows me to show these different sheets being replicated. You notice AD, CDFD, ED, HFD, LGAD, all these prepared in what? Less than 2 seconds. So that was a quick overview of how pivot table can be useful for your work. See you in the detailed videos. I hope you loved the previous exercise where we had practiced with the data spanning over 60,000 lines with more than a dozen columns. Well, I'm using the same case study to ask another question. We had the sales data working for us, whereby in 2002, 2003 and 2004, the 3 years, how much sales this particular company had made to its various customers globally. Now let's say I want to find a trend whether amongst the 7 days, how have the sales been affected. Although this is a 7 days running company, I want to see whether the maximum sales has been dispatched on Sunday or Wednesday or Thursday or Friday. Now, to be able to do that, first you need to extract the day, which is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Now, to be able to do that, I will be taking help of one formula called text. I'm going to give the heading as day, but the formula that I'll be using is called text. Let me optimize the window before I start working on it. There you go. Once I put the column in front of me clearly, now I'm going to write a formula in the yellow cell. It says equal to text. It asks for the date value, which I'm going to pick from the sales date, comma, and within a pair of double quotation, I'm going to put 4 times DD, and that's it. Double quotation close the brackets, enter. There's a formula which has been discussed in much detail in another lecture, but let me see the application in context of this data. As I copy paste the entire set of formula in the column N, 1st of Jan 2002 is actually falling on a Tuesday. Now with this data in hand, let me quickly prepare a pivot table. Ctrl A, insert, pivot table, okay. And as usual, I'm going to right click on the grid area, activate one of the pivot table options, which allows me to go back to the classic pivot table layout. Once having done so, now let me put the day in the row field. And thereafter, let me put sales amount in the main action area. Now let me first optimize the format. And what I get is more or less the trend is consistent. So if you want to present this data in a very clear graphical format, you would use something called spark lines, something I have already discussed in one of another video lecture sessions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my cursor in any one cell, okay, and after having done so, I go to insert tab, then I go to the section which is called spark lines. I'm going to click on line. If I choose line and I choose the entire set of numbers, please note I'm just choosing only 7 numbers right now, not the text, not the total. As I press OK, you get a basic trend whereby the second month you have slightly higher sales compared to other sales of different days. So this is a spark line based inside cell chart. So what we saw was using a formula text, how to extract the day, and then properly also using spark lines to visually present the data. Today, we'll be talking about one of the most fascinating tricks on Excel, that is 3-dimensional data consolidation. Now, to be able to proceed towards that, I will need to walk you through a very simple, plain and easy theoretical example. It won't take much time, but that will give you a basic flavor of what are things about to come before you. So first, I have a data which says there are 5 students who have scored different marks under history, maths, English in semester 1. There's another sheet which says semester 2 data, the same set of students, the sequence can be different. Notice the name Lewis can be in the first row, and maybe just the English can be in the first column amongst all the data that have been given. So the idea is the scores for semester 2 have also been released. Now I want to see the average score for each individual student under each individual subjects. So what do? Now, in case there are many more students and the sequence are not same, of course, it is a possibility that a person may have joined in semester 2 or may have quit before semester 2. And I want that data to be collated at one single place. So what I do, I create a new sheet. Yep, it's a pure blank sheet. I'm picking any one cell of my choice and I'm going to data. Although the Excel says consolidate, a button saying consolidate, but very soon in probably the next video we'll see how we can use a smart technique to make it into a 3-dimensional data consolidation. So at this moment, go to consolidate. It says what function do you want to use? I want to use average. Average on what? Now here you need to choose the sources of data which you want to collate. And the data has been a very structured form. The vertical data has been belonging to all the student names. The horizontally placed information is the subject name, although the sequence are different. So what I'm going to do is choose the first data set. Keep a note that I'm not choosing just the scores. I'm choosing along with the student's name and the subject name. Now once you have chosen that data source, make sure that you add it. So I've added semester 1 to the bucket. Let me go to semester 2, choose a similar source of data and add that too. It is not a necessity that the cells may be placed in exactly the same reference B4 or C4. They can be in different positions. Now before I press OK, I must check these 3 check boxes on. Why? Because the label says I want the top row labels, which is the subject name. The left column label is the student name, and more importantly I want to create links to the source data such that any updation revision in the scores will impact my final summary. I press OK. Instantly I get a report which says Jacob has scored on an average 63 in history in both the semester combined. Let me check it out. 54 from first semester, 71 from the second semester. So Jacob, semester 1 54 history, semester 2 Jacob, how much? 71. Note that Excel intelligently has picked up the correct marks for history and the student Jacob, despite the fact that they had been placed in different columns and rows compared to the semester 1 data. And most importantly, if you change the number here, let's say 99, you will notice the impact is felt in the final output too. So this is data consolidation in its very basic form. This is just for initial practice, but of course this is not the kind of data you'll be working with in the corporate world. And for that very purpose, I will take you through a more practical example in the next video session. Till then, practice to this point. As a part of data cleaning strategies, what we are learning is text to column. And if you've watched our previous video, this is just a continuation on the various other aspects, other options of text to columns. Now here lies the data in column A, which is an extract from fixed asset register, hypothetical data. Now it seems there are 4 pieces of information embedded in the one single cell, that is account number 5-digit code, followed by item number 6-digit code. The item numbers are unique. And there's some kind of a system check number. It seems that there are a couple of zeros added to the same item number, and that ends with one asset description. Now to be able to apply pivot table or sort or filter, I need to get them extracted into 4 different columns. So how do I do so? I choose a sample data, I go to data, I go to text to columns. Now wait. If you have been through our previous video, you might be attracted to this option saying delimited. Why? Because I see a couple of spaces which are bifurcating the data. Well, let's see what happens if I choose delimited, and in the next step 2, I choose space. Oh, I see in the data preview window that apart from the top 3 columns, the first 3 columns, the last column has been brutally bifurcated into multiple columns. Not required, definitely. So I go back, I choose fixed width. Now what is fixed width? We'll find out in the next few moments. In the next button, when I click upon, it shows me that there are automatic line items which is supposedly cutting the data into various columns. Now when I double click on a certain line item, it vanishes, which means now it's going to be one single column of data output. If I single click on one location of the preview window, it brings back those lines. So you can also change the placement of the line by simply dragging and moving it away. Also you can double click to get it removed completely, or single click to bring it back. At this moment what it shows me is column 1, column 2, column 3 and column 4. I go to next. And in the destination, I change to the adjoining blank cell. In the next few other videos, we will see the different settings in step 3 of 3. At this moment, I am just content with changing the destination. Let me press finish. Yeah. It seems that my answer has been correctly extracted into 4 columns. But wait, notice column D. If you compare with the original data, the zeros have vanished. So how do you ensure that the zeros are retained? Well, let me go back one step. I choose the data again, this time from start till the end. Shift Ctrl down, remember, and Ctrl Backspace to be able to go to the header. Now I go to data, text to columns. If you want to use a shortcut key to apply data text to columns, Alt key, notice the data, it's been indicated by the letter A, so A, and then text to column, it's saying E, so E. Once it arrives, the dialog box, I choose fixed width. By default, Excel has already recommended the same to me. I go to next. I see 4 columns bifurcated. Next. In the destination, as usual, I choose the next adjoining blank cell, but wait, there's one setting which you must be aware of. Notice all the headings are currently pointing to general. And we had a problem in that, in the third column. If I choose the third column, in step 3 of 3, it blackens out. It seems it has been selected. And now I have the power to make it in text format. If I do so, quickly the text heading appears. And if I press finish, notice the zeros have now been retained. So this was a quick trick inside text to columns under fixed width category. Practice and we'll have more challenges coming up. If you ever get into data cleaning exercise in Excel, text to column is one function, one technique which you must be aware of. And I'm not only going to talk about basics but even the advanced ones. So as we proceed, you'll notice we gradually move from the basic to advanced, starting from the basic right now, especially for people who want to brush up the skills on text to columns. So before us lies the data which has surname followed by name. And one thing that differentiates the name and the surname is the comma in between. Now what text to column does is it helps you cut the data into different columns. And one of the strategy that it uses is that you need to tell that common delimiter at which point the data must be cut, in this case the comma. So how do I execute that technique? Let's find out. I choose a sample data set, I go to data, you will find text to column neatly placed in the middle of this ribbon, text to columns, and the icon also suggests the same thing, that one single column gets bifurcated into multiple ones. So once I click on it, it gives me a dialog box prompt which says convert text to column wizard step 1 of 3. A lot of funda here which you would want to read it if you're using for the first time, but let me illustrate the practical aspect. There are 2 options. In this video we're going to talk about the first option. It says delimited characters such as commas or tabs separate each field, which means any common delimiter which you need to identify at which point Excel is going to cut the data. So I'm going to next. I'm going to take the tab thing off and I'm going to put the comma checkbox on. As soon as I do that, you notice there are 2 columns in which the data has been bifurcated. So I go to next. Now there are a couple of more options which I'm going to discuss in the next upcoming videos, but at this moment the one final thing that I need to change is the destination. As I choose this particular selected cell, you notice the cell A4 starts blinking, which means if I just press finish at this point, it supersedes the existing data. Of course I don't want that at this moment, so I go back to data, text to column, I go to the step 2, and after having chosen comma I go to next, and in the destination I backspace that and I'm going to choose the associated blank cell from where the output should begin. Once I press finish, yep, there you go, Abdul Salam, Abni, Adams, all the surname in one column and name in the second column. So delimiter in text to column helps you find the common character at which point the data can be cut into various columns. We'll see more tricks as we proceed. I hope you enjoyed our YouTube videos, and I really appreciate that if you could subscribe to our videos, which will also encourage me to give more such videos in the times to come. And you can also watch some of our popular programs which have been liked by a lot of viewers. See you soon.
In this particular video session, we'll talk about if statement, how to build a logical if statement, and more importantly, understand each and every parameter so that you can build complex if statement subsequently. Now, why I discuss this? Because I have seen in most cases professionals have learned this if statement from their colleagues just by looking at the formula and trying to replicate the same logic. But what they have lacked is the entire knowledge of foundation, the concept behind the parameters of if statement, which we will address. At this moment, let me go to sheet 01 where the case study lies, and that is where we start building our if statement. Now first, I want us to focus on if logical statements parameter. It says first thing is logical test. Please keep a note, it's logical test and not tests, which indicate plural. It's a singular item, and followed by value if true, value if false. Now first thing you must understand is what is logical from Excel's point of view. To give an example, let me write some random values including true, false, and some alphanumeric data, even number. And if I choose a whole bunch of selection and press Ctrl G, yes, Ctrl G, I go to special, and in which I choose constants which are logicals. Now this is as per Excel's definition. If I press OK, whatever gets selected is logical as per Excel. Notice these two cells get selected. So you can very well write in your notepad that logical as per Excel means true, false. So the parameter of if says logical test indicating true, false test. A question you need to ask whose answer must be in affirmative or negative. Yes, no. To be more technical, it should be in true or false. If the question's answer is true, then what action or message would you like to give? That's coming under the next parameter showing as value if true, and the third parameter, if your initial question shows false, what else to do. So in this particular video we will see, for a very simple example, I need to classify the rating. Yes, the rating assigned to the people. 1, 2, 3 should be good and 4, 5 should be bad. So we write a formula if the first question that I need to ask is the cell that contains the rating is less than 3. Oh wait, if you're writing less than 3, make sure it is less than equal to 3, so that it includes all the values 1, 2, 3. If it is less than equal to 3, comma, what would you like to do? Message going out saying good, comma, and then if it is not so, then the message going out should be bad. Notice, since it's a text message, I must give that in a pair of double quotation, and the main question followed by the two verdicts. Enter, and I copy paste it, simply dragging the formula, or better I double click at the bottom right of the cell, and there you go. Just to test, 4 is bad, 1 is good, and currently there are only two verdicts. If you want to add one more layer of complexity where you want to say that 1 and 2 is good, 3 is okay, and 4, 5 bad, then of course we will have to write another if statement in initial if statement. So if the rating is less than 3, that's the question, one question whose answer is going to be yes or no. So if it is yes, if it is true, then the message going out should be good, perfect, comma. Now it's the turn of false. If it is false, you cannot simply write okay. Why? Because you never know, it could be okay, it could be bad. Now I need to ask another question, but notice that you cannot simply select a cell and ask another question like that. Why? Because who has the power of asking question? Logical test. Do you see a logical test here? To populate a logical test parameter here, you must have another if statement. So I'm reserving a seat for another if statement, and there is where I will write my next step. So within the pair of parentheses which has been added for the next if statement, I write if the same cell which contains the rating is equal to 3, comma, within a pair of double quotation, what I'm going to write is the word okay, and that substitutes for the value if true. Finally, if it is not good, if it is not okay, the only one thing left to be said is bad. So I close the brackets. Since it's already closed, I no need to close the bracket separately. I'll press enter. Just to test whether it works correctly, I put 3, okay, 4, yep, goes there, 5, bad, 1, 2 is good. So this is technically called a nested if statement. Keep in mind that on a standalone basis, the if formula can ask only one question at a time. If you need further logics, you need to build more if statement one after another. In the next few videos, we'll also see how to combine AND formula with OR, how to combine AND OR formula with if statement. Till then, practice to this point.
I hope you enjoyed our YouTube videos, and I really appreciate that if you could subscribe to our videos, which will also encourage me to give more such videos in the times to come. And you can also watch some of our popular programs which have been liked by a lot of viewers. See you soon.
Today we'll learn about some of the formula auditing tricks. If ever you are working with a file which has been handed over to you, you want to start with a certain ground, with certain knowledge, prerequisite knowledge, before you can give your own inputs. For example, if you are given this simple model which talks about sales growth, assumptions, how are the costs behaving in the upcoming years, and based on that, based on those assumptions, how are the sales, cost and profit numbers being generated. Now, either you double click on these cells one by one and find out how the formulas are playing internally and how are they calculating the end profit, or else if you want to get a quick glance of how are they moving, you may go to Formulas tab, and there's something on the right hand side called Show Formulas. Notice there's a shortcut associated with Show Formulas too. So first I click the button Show Formulas. What does it do? It quickly shows you all the formula at a single glance on the entire sheet. If you click on the same button once again, it goes back to normal. The same thing you could have achieved by using these two keys on the keyboard. One is Control and the other is called backtick key, which is residing just immediately above the tab key. So I'm going to press those shortcut keys together, Control and backtick key. You get the same effect. I use this quite often before I start working on any file that has been given over to me by my colleague or by my clients. So there goes the first trick, show all formulas. Next, this is another trick which shows you how are the formulas flowing from which sources. So if I keep my cursor on this particular cell and I say trace precedents, it shows me in graphical arrows form what are the numbers that are helping getting this answer on board. And in fact, if you want to go beyond the one level precedents, you may again select the cell and double click on trace precedents. Similarly, if I select one particular cell and I say double click on trace dependents, notice it shows dependents. So it depends on how many times you click, single click or double click. If you don't want to show these arrows, you may simply say remove arrows. And in fact, if you pick up any cell who uses another cell from a different sheet, then how does it get shown up? I say trace dependents. Okay, there's no dependent. This must be the case for precedents. Let me select this cell and double click on trace precedents. Okay, it shows precedent and precedents, and there's one window like sign which tells me that some cell has been referred from different sheet. I double click on this dotted line and it tells me that this is the cell. Let me select that and press OK. Whoop, I'm taking to another sheet which is called test sheet. So that was the button based exercise, trace precedents and trace dependents. If you want a similar thing using a shortcut key, you as well may refer to these couple of shortcut keys which I'm going to use right now. For example, I choose this cell and I'm going to press the shortcut key Control third bracket open, this one. So Control third bracket open. It quickly chooses one level of precedents which I can readily make it bold by using Control B and Control U for underline. Similarly, if I place my cursor on this green cell and I place the same shortcut key Control third bracket open, it takes me to one cell previous to it. Now point number 3 is, if I had referred to only one cell from a test sheet, let's say in this case 62, and I use Control third bracket open, the same shortcut key, it takes me there. But now the question is, how do I come back? I will press F5. F5 is activating the go to box, and automatically the origin where you came from, that has already been posted here. So all I need to do is press enter. So right now what did I use? I used the shortcut key Control third bracket open, that is to go to the source, and then if you want to return back, then you use this shortcut key, that is F5 and enter. So basically it's going to work like this, Control third bracket open and F5 and enter. So it's like moving back and forth. Similarly, if you want to trace all the precedents, not just one level, using a shortcut key, then you start using these two shortcut keys for precedents and dependents respectively. So Control Shift third bracket, yep, it chooses all the cells. If I color them, you'll find out which cells are they pointing to.
So these are a couple of shortcut keys which helps you audit the entire sheet using quick navigation shortcut keys.
In this video, we'll talk about Vlookup formula. Plain and simple, the starting point of Vlookup formula. What is it meant for? And eventually, we'll also talk about why is it so important to learn more about Vlookup. Now, in this example before our screen, lies one database, and the database is a theoretical database. Serial number, employee ID, name, gender, age. Now, from these given set of employee IDs and names, maybe for curiosity, I would have picked up 4 random employee IDs. Now I want to know what the names are for the respective IDs. Now if you were to do this manually, you would have to first copy this entire cell. You'll have to press Ctrl F. Then Ctrl F will prompt you with find and replace box. I'll have to paste that particular number in that box, and this will enable me to find all the occurrences of this number. Now this is a manual method to search for a number. What we want is an automated formula solution which not only fetches us the name for the first employee ID but all the remaining 3 as well. Let's see how it works. I start by writing equal to VL. Now since 2007 version of Excel, as soon as you start typing in few letters of any formula, you will get a drop down. If the drop down already highlights the formula that you desire to use, you can press the tab key to bring it along. Now here comes the series of parameters which we'll be trying to feed in to get our answer. The first thing, it says lookup value. Be very careful. This is lookup value and not values. This is the link with which I'm supposed to connect my question with the database from where I'm supposed to pull the answer. So lookup value, look for the employee ID. Now I'll put a comma so that I can proceed to the next part of the parameter which says table array. Now one of the prerequisites of Vlookup is whatever common value that you're trying to connect your question with the table, that must be present in the first column of the selection of table that you are going to make. So although it says table array, doesn't mean that you will choose the entire table, because in which case Vlookup will not be able to look for that value in the first column of the chosen table array. So what we do, we go ahead and start selecting the table array selection right from the column which contains the command link. Once I have chosen that, I'm going to press function key F4. Now we have seen this in earlier videos that this helps me lock the entire range of table array. If I proceed with copy pasting the formula downwards, this table array will hold its current position. It will not move down. Eventually, in some time, you will see what would have happened had I not pressed F4 and locked the range. So thereafter I put a comma, column index number. Amongst the number of columns that you have chosen, the 4 columns, which column is supposed to fetch you the real answer? That's the second one. So I'll give a numeric value which is 2. Had you wished to get the gender of the particular employee ID, you would have given 3. As of now, I'll stick to 2. Comma. So the fourth parameter which it asks for is true versus false. Since I want an exact match, that means only if you find this particular number in the database, only and only then you please fetch me the name. If there is even 1 digit difference, please do not give me the name, instead give me NA. So as of now, I'm going to choose false. Now for Vlookup, or for Excel rather, false is equivalent to 0 and true is equivalent to 1. Concept of Boolean value. Hence, instead of false, a lot of professionals prefer to give 0, which is fine. Let me close the bracket and press enter. As I copy paste this formula down through mouse, you'll notice amongst the 4 employee IDs, I only got 1 NA. And why is that? The primary reason of this NA could be that this particular number doesn't exist in the database in which you are trying to look for that particular number. So this was basics of Vlookup. To continue with our previous example, you may have also asked me, what if I wanted to know the age of these employees? So let's just do a quick round of practice and see how Vlookup, the same formula, can be used to fetch the age. So equal to VL, let me press the tab key, lookup value. This is the anchor, this is the common link which will help you fish out the information from the database given below. So lookup value, looking for that employee ID, comma, table array. Now I would definitely choose the table array starting from the column which contains the common link. Now you can very well propose to me, look, if I had taken lookup value as the name, the previous cell name, in which case the table array selection would have had to be starting from this column and thereafter onwards. So as of now, let me stick to my original strategy, that is equal to VL, pressing the tab key, looking up for value employee ID, comma, table array. Let me start from the cell or the cell below, doesn't matter if you do not take in the header. As of now, I'm taking the full data including the employee ID as the first column. Now assume for a moment that you did not press F4, which is used to lock the range, and I continue. Column index number, in this case I want age, which is in the fourth column, 4. Now be careful, if there are any hidden columns, that must also be counted for counting the sequence. So as of now, since there are no hidden columns, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Finally 0 or false for exact match. I could have also given 0. Now before I press enter, let me just remind you that I did not freeze this particular table array. Now when I copy paste it down, notice I'm getting 2 NAs. Now why is that so? Let me help you figure it out. If I double click on the first formula, notice the blue border, it is pointing to the first employee ID, and the table array is being highlighted by the red border. If I look at the next one, as expected, the blue border has shifted down to the next employee ID, but on the other hand, the red border is indicating that the table array has also shifted. So eventually, as you move forward vertically, copy pasting the formula down, the table array marked by the red border is pointing to an area which I did not choose in the first place. It has shifted below. So technically speaking, Vlookup is looking for this particular employee ID, trying to look for this in this designated red colored border area, and it doesn't find that ID. Why? Because that ID lies outside. So for this very reasons, I wanted us to fix the table array. So I go back to the formula, I choose this entire selection, and I'm going to press F4. Once having done so, let me press enter, which I have. Let me then copy paste the formula. Now I get the perfect answer. So this was completion of basics of Vlookup formula. This video we talk about the differences between Vlookup and Hlookup, and more specifically the practical advantage of one over another. So example number 1, before us lies a table which has some hypothetical names regarding the company names and their respective information with respect to sales and cost. Now if you want to fetch company Blue's cost, now when I look at the series of information given before me with respect to company name, I notice they are placed vertically. Hence I am bound to use Vlookup. Look for the company Blue, that's the lookup value, comma, thereafter choosing the table starting with the column containing the common link. As usual, I'm going to press F4, comma, thereafter, and column index number 3 because I want to fetch the answer from the third column, 3, comma, 0, enter. Now the same data, if I were to transpose it, so paste special transpose, you would notice that the company name now have been placed horizontally. In case you wished to find the answer now for Blue's cost, you would be proceeding with Hlookup. So although it contains almost same set of parameters as Vlookup, there's one minor difference which I'll explain in some time. Lookup value, look for the company Blue, that's the question, comma, table array. Now this time ensure that the first row definitely contains the company name. So the first row contains company name, with which I'm going to press F4 to fix and lock the range, comma. This time it doesn't say column index number, it says row index number, which means Hlookup has already attempted finding where is company Blue, But now once it has found out, it needs to know from which of the 3 rows the answer needs to be fetched from. So since cost lies in the 3rd row, I'll be pushing 3, numeric 3 value, row index number 3, and as usual false indicates exact match. So I can also put in 0 as a proxy for false, closing the brackets, enter. So that was the difference between Vlookup and Hlookup. Now you might ask me, why is Vlookup more popular? For the very simple reason that whatever data you download from ERP or databases, most of them, more than 95% of them, are placed vertically. And that is the reason why people use Vlookup more frequently than Hlookup. In this video, we'll learn something about indirect formula. A formula which people rarely use, but once they start using it, they'll find immense benefit in almost any formula. And gradually you'll see how powerful this formula is if you start using it in combination of other formulas such as VLOOKUP match, index match match, or some ifs or if statement. But to understand this, we need to undergo some experiments in Excel, which we will now. So we'll start with experiment number 1. First, let's start with the first experiment. Now, in the yellow cell, I'm writing A5. Now you'll gradually know why am I writing A5, but at this moment I'm writing A5, and I may ask you that if I write a formula below that which points to the cell above, and if I press enter, what is going to be the natural answer? A5? I agree. This appears to be a very basic question, but now in contrast to what I've written right now, I am going to write a formula called indirect. Now indirect, I'm pointing to the yellow cell, closing the brackets. Let me first press enter and show you what comes out, what gets displayed as a result, and then we'll discuss about it. Notice this time I'm getting the term blue. So basically indirect formula is asking the formula to go to a particular cell, and the cell may act as a desk. That desk contains an address chit. The address chit is containing the address which is A5, and that's the reason it is taking the value from A5. To understand this through an illustration, you look at this particular diagram. A person who has been asked to go to an address. Now unless he finds that address chit, he will not be able to locate the address to which he must go to. He is being directed to a desk which contains the address chit, in this case A5, and using that A5 or the cell reference or the address chit, he is able to pinpoint the exact location to which he must go to. So basically we are going to relate this example with our experiment. That is, indirect formula is asking you to go to a particular desk which is B3, the cell B3, and the cell B3, which we will consider as a desk, contains the address chit A5, and the address chit leads us to the right location, which now contains blue. At this moment if I write A6, enter, black. If I write A1, enter, we get experiment 1. And if I write A2, nothing, 0. It's a blank cell. If I write A space 1, notice I'm getting a reference error because this is an invalid address. The correct address is A1. Now as a sub experiment, let's do one more task. That is, I'm going to choose this particular cell and name this as color 1 with no spaces. This is the phenomenon of naming a cell or a range. If you want to know more about it, please refer to our earlier videos. And at this moment, after writing the name of the cell, I'm going to press enter. Similarly, I go to the next cell and I'm going to give a nickname of color 2, and must make sure that I press enter. Only and only then the name does get registered. So by now color 1 is indicating the cell A5 and color 2 is indicating black. Now if I write color 1, isn't it a valid address for Excel right now? If it is, then I can effectively use indirect formula, point to the cell, this is just the desk on which the address chit is placed, and using that address of color 1, it pinpoints me to the value of blue. If you want to know more about the names, you can also go to Formulas tab and look at Name Manager, because Name Manager will contain some of the names which I have recently given and some names which were given previously. So I can delete these other 3 names which are not required and just be content with the 2 for our experiment. This may seem theoretical, but believe me, after 1 or 2 more videos on indirect formula which are there in the series, this will be crystal clear.
I hope you enjoyed our YouTube videos, and I really appreciate that if you could subscribe to our videos, which will also encourage me to give more such videos in the times to come. And you can also watch some of our popular programs which have been liked by a lot of viewers. See you soon.
In this video session, we learn about a match formula, which is going to be extremely beneficial if you have been using Vlookup, Hlookup and index formula. And we'll see why this holds such big importance if you're working with such formulas. In the first example, which might seem theoretical at the first instance, I want us to look for the word sales and trying to find the position number in the set of 3 blue cells which I've highlighted. So I write the formula equal to MAT using the autocomplete feature of Excel 2007, 10 and 2013. I'll press tab key. Now the first parameter asks me to look up for one value. Please note it's a singular item. Lookup value. I choose the cell containing the word sales. I put a comma. Note the next item says lookup array. It doesn't says table array, which means you cannot, even if you want to, you cannot choose a table-like structure in the selection. Either you choose a part of a row or a part of a column, but anytime it has to be one-dimensional array. So this time lookup array, I'm choosing this entire block, and as usual for any given array or range, I'm going to press F4, comma. Finally, it tells me that if you want an exact match, that means if you're looking for the word sales, it has to be sales exact match. So I choose 0. I close the bracket, enter. Now I'm getting an answer 2. What does this 2 signifies? It signifies that amongst the group of 3 cells, the word sales is positioned in the second column. The moment I change the word to cost, it changes to 3. Since the formula is not case sensitive, even if you write cost in capital, it still is going to work. Although if you were writing a word sale without an extra S at the last, it will give you NA, primarily because you are looking for an exact match and sales has to be sales as per the question. This was using match horizontally. Now we see how match works for a vertical set of items. So I write equal to match. I look up for a value black. That's one of the hypothetical company names, comma, and lookup array. As discussed earlier, we cannot make the selection as a form of a table. It has to be one-dimensional. In this case, I'm choosing this as lookup array. I'm going to press F4 to fix that range and comma followed by 0 for exact match, thus closing the brackets thereafter. Now some of you might ask me, how did I put that 0 instantly? If you press down arrow key and choose this 0 and then press tab key, it automatically gives that 0. So I close the brackets and I press enter thereafter. So black 1 2 3 4 5 6. Had I written red, it would have given me an answer of 3. Now please note, since it's a theoretical example, you might have also chosen one cell less in the lookup array, in which case the count of the word red would have been 2. Very soon in the subsequent videos we'll see where this could benefit us in practical world.
I hope you enjoyed our YouTube videos, and I really appreciate that if you could subscribe to our videos, which will also encourage me to give more such videos in the times to come. And you can also watch some of our popular programs which have been liked by a lot of viewers. See you soon.
As a continuation of the previous discussion where we were talking about the basics of indirect formula, we this time take care of experiment number 2. Now by now you would be wondering where the indirect formula could actually be applied, and this will be the starting of the answer seeking exercise. We have 3 columns, so Jan, Feb, March, and each of them has 2 numbers placed below it, so that Jan 1 2, Feb 3 4, March 5 6. Now we want a mechanism by which if I change the yellow cell to, let's say, MAR, I should be getting answer 11. If I write Feb, then I should be getting answer as 7, basically a sum of the numbers underneath it. Now one option could be that you start using if. People do that. They say if the cell is equal to Feb, then in that case it should fetch me a summation of these two values. Perfect. Else, please go ahead and ask another question. If the same cell A15 is equal to JAN, that in double quotation, then in that case sum should be based on these two values. Else sum should be based on the MAR. Closing the brackets once again, and that's the formula. Now notice, just for 3 months the formula length is so large. Imagine if you had 12 months data, the length of the formula would have been 4 times this. So we want a faster and easier mechanism which gives us the answer in a very small and easy formula, and the main point is it should not increase in length the moment more months come into the picture. Now let's see how to achieve this. First, I'm going to choose these 1 and 2 and name this as JAN. You can use uppercase, lowercase in writing the name JN, but make sure that after writing the name you press enter. If you have these two cells FEB, enter. These two cells I am writing MAR and pressing enter. So henceforth I have 3 more names, Feb pointing to these two cells, Jan pointing to these two, and March, MAR, to these cells. So now what if I write some formula and this sum needs a location from where the numbers must be picked for totaling up? Now the location is dependent on the yellow cell. Basically this is the desk where address chit is mentioned. If address changes, the sum formula will go to a different address. But who will lead me to this address? The concept of redirection, that is going to be given by indirect formula. So indirect, go to this particular cell that contains the address chit, and this will tell you where to go. So as of now Feb is pointing to where? 3 and 4, and because of which I'm getting 7. By the way, if you wanted to know what is going on in Excel's mind, you can simply choose the indirect formula starting right from I, ending till the bracket of indirect, and pressing function key F9. So the moment I change this to Jan, I get 3. The moment I change this to MAR, I'm getting 5 plus 6. So internally what is happening, indirect is a formula which is going to this desk. It is taking the address and going to the right location, and these two numbers, once it is fed to the sum formula, it quickly adds up the numbers. Now you might tell me, look, if there are 9 more months of data, do I need to name these two cells respectively for all the remaining 9 months? No. Let's see fast how this can be done. Let's say I have data till December, and what I'm doing is I'm simply going to add +1 to the previous cell so that we populate a random set of numbers for our exercise. Now instead of naming them individually as APR, MAY, JUN, JUL, I can choose the entire block including the name. As discussed in one of the previous videos, with respect to names, mass name or bulk naming, we have a technique with us. That is, you go to Formulas tab and there's a button called Create from Selection. Primarily it points to the fact that you can create the names from the selected area. So I click on Create from Selection, and it says create names from selection, and take the names from where? From the top row. If I press OK, it seems that nothing has happened on my screen, but to know more, let's look at the drop down of the name box. Whoa, I'm getting all the names of the month in the 3-letter format which has been given in the heading. Just for testing, if I put, let's say, JUL, this point these two cells, and to make the formula work, I'll simply modify the drop down list such that it incorporates other 9 months. So I go to the yellow cell, data tab, within which look for data validation, click on data validation. The item suggests that allow a list, but the source is restricted to only these 3 cells. So let me change those 3 selections right from Jan till December, and as I press OK, this drop down has all the 12 months value. So if I now choose AUG, let me check, 10 plus 11, 21. So there you go. With the same length of that formula, we are able to derive an answer right from Jan till December. This is using the technique of indirect and naming, and which will use it in a much more powerful manner in the next few videos. Till then, practice this exercise where we also saw how to bulk name a particular range. In the super video, we'll talk about three-dimensional lookup. And let me tell you, if you want to proceed with this exercise, please go through INDIRECT formula, naming concept, and Vlookup and match. Only in that case you'll be able to extract the best flavor out of this video. So now let me illustrate the question. So at this moment I have a group of employee names, and along with that I have a column dedicated towards their salary, which division that they work for, which region or cost center they have been assigned into. So APAC refers to Asia Pacific, ROW refers to rest of the world, and what rating have they received. Now the question is, based on the rating and the division that they work for, along with the region under which they have been classified, you need to allot them bonus percentage in column G. For example, if the first person belongs to HFD and he has received a rating 3 and he belongs to APAC, APAC means Asia Pacific, so APAC table says HFD rating number 3, it should be 25%. Now you can do this with filter, but imagine applying filter 80 times. Why do I say 80 times? Because 1% is based on 3 variables: APAC, HFD, rating 1. So if you apply filter, you have to first filter out APAC people. Within APAC, who are the HFD guys who have received rating 1, and you have to do that how many times? 80 times in this case study. Why? 5 ratings, 8 divisions, 40 times, 40 plus 40, that makes it 80, because the next table refers to the percentage bonus for people who are working under ROW or rest of the world. Now I've seen people, they start using if statement, but wait, if they move along with if statement, they will definitely have to use AND formula. And notice how does it look. And is the rating equal to 1? Is the region equal to APAC? And is the division equal to HFD? If all these conditions are met, then please give him 45%. Now notice the length of the formula that you had to write just to arrive at one answer, that is 45%. This is just one of the values from the first table. Imagine same length of formula you have to write for each and every individual figures. And the length of the formula, as you can imagine, is going to cross several miles. So now that the question is clear that we need to assign appropriate bonus percentage to these employees based on division, region and rating, let's proceed with the solution. Now we'll be using Vlookup, match and indirect, and to do that first I need to name the appropriate arrays, both table arrays and lookup arrays, which are going to be referred by Vlookup and match formula. So now I'm choosing the first table, going to the name box, giving a generic name APAC. Now since this is the senior selection, and for those viewers who are finding this new term senior, please refer to one of our old videos on Vlookup match. You'll get the idea to which section am I referring to senior selection and to what reference am I referring to junior selection. So at this moment I am choosing this particular section and giving this a name APAC followed by H. H indicates header. Enter. Similar strategy I am going to employ for the next table. I choose the table number 2. Go to name box and write ROW and press enter. I choose the table heading. I then name it ROWH. Please note I'm using the same naming convention, which is whatever the name of the entire table array or senior in our reference. I'm just affixing H or header, short form for header, towards the end. So as I press enter, towards the end of this entire process I will have 4 names: APAC, APAC H, ROW, ROW H. Now let me begin by writing the formula. So Vlookup, look up for rating. Why so? Because this is the one variable which you will be able to find in the first column of both the tables from where you are supposed to fetch the answer, comma, table array. Now if you are choosing this table physically, you'll notice towards the end of the selection automatically the APAC word comes up, which means since the table has been named, we can write APAC. and this will refer to the table. The first one marked by the red border, comma. This is our senior. The table array is our senior. Now column index number will be fulfilled by the match formula. Let me write in match formula, press the tab key and close the bracket immediately. Following our strategy of putting a dummy placeholder of a formula inside a comma formula, first finishing off the entire framework and then returning back to match formula. At this moment I put comma, and let me check, is this data a slab? No, it is continuous, right? So as per our previous discussions on Vlookup with true, we must put 0 because this data is not a slab. Now it's the turn of match formula. Match, your focus is to find the column index number from where the answer must be fetched. So as per our data, HFD lies in the second column. I want match to fetch us 2. How would it do so? Match, look for the term HFD, comma, and where would you start looking for it? Remember the old strategy of junior follows senior? We will not take extra cells, we will not take lesser number of cells, we will start exactly from the boundaries of the senior or VLOOKUP selection. And notice, as soon as I do so, the APAC H names comes up on our screen. So I press comma 0 to ensure it's an exact match, and let me test whether this is going to work or not. Oh yeah, I get the 25%, and you can notice HFD rating number 3 is 25%. If I put rating 1, changes to 45%. If I change the division name, CDFD, and I should be getting 100%, CDFD rating 1. But wait, if I change the region to ROW, will the answer change? Should have, but doesn't. For the simple reason, your formula still holds the APAC reference. It is not letting VLOOKUP and match formula to go to the second table for referring to the values. So now here we employ the trick, which is the final part. We will create a desk which will harbor the address chit of the junior selection. What do I mean by that? You'll get to know in a minute's time. I write equal to, I choose the previous cell and I'm putting an ampersand followed by, in double quotation, the letter H. This ensures that when I double click at the bottom right of the cell, every one cell in that column has the name of the region followed by H. Now, next trick is I get inside the main formula, I delete this word APAC. Instead, I am putting indirect formula, and following our strategy, I'm closing the bracket right now. Now, this indirect formula needs the desk. It is going to the desk, which is now pointing to D5. This is the cell containing row. Now imagine what would happen eventually when I press enter. Indirect formula goes to the desk contains an address chit row, and this means it will be taken to the second table's table array. Similarly, if I go to APAC H, if I delete this portion and I put indirect, immediately closing the bracket, and this indirect will be pointing to the cell E5. So it's going to the cell containing row H and it will be redirected to the row H header. Enter. Now you see 110%, and that is the answer what we wanted to find out for CDFD rating 1. And the best part, if I change this to APAC region, you will get 100%. So there you go. All I have to do is copy paste the remaining, and these answers have been now derived using 3-dimensional lookup. 1 dimension rating, 1 dimension division name, and the 3rd dimension being the region. So as I ungroup the entire set of employee list, you'll notice towards the end, right till the end, I have been able to calculate the percentage bonus. Now just imagine if you had 2 more regions and the table would have looked like this somewhat. Maybe Latin America or maybe Gulf. The formula length will not change. It will remain the same. All you have to do is simply name the additional tables as per the revised region. The TAM, short form for Latin America. And in fact, you'll also notice, despite the division name being in the header being different in terms of sequence, the answer comes out correctly. And you can verify the accuracy of this answer. In fact, before I close this, I'll quickly test it for HFD. Perfect. Answer changes. Rating number 3. Answer changes. So here you go. The concept that we applied was VLOOKUP match indirect.
In this session, we will learn about how to protect certain selected cells. We'll take an example. Example number 1. In one of these initial yellow cells, I have the conversion rate, how much INR is worth per US dollar. Let's assume 60 rupees per US dollar. Now, if the sales in US dollar happens to be $1,000, I want an automatic formula which says 60 multiplied with 1000, that gives me sales in INR. Now, amongst all the cells in the entire worksheet, I wish to protect only one cell, and that is the one which has formula. When I say protecting that cell, I mean that nobody should be able to modify that cell, change the formula. In fact, in case you want to go one step ahead, you can also ensure that nobody is able to see the formula right now, which I can from the formula bar. So how do we execute this particular phenomenon? 1. It involves 2 steps which has to be executed in that very sequence. Step number 1, let me give you a brief background about step number 1. When we right click on any cell, in fact any new workbook, any new worksheet, that if you right click on and if you go to format cells, you will have noticed that on the top right hand side, the tab of protection, the locked options already checked on. Now what does this mean? It simply means that amongst all the cells that are already there on the sheet, everybody has been marked for protection, so that when you activate the protection through a password, all the cells will be protected. Now at this moment I can change the cell value. Why? Because the step 2 or password has not been activated. But before I activate the password, I need to ensure that all the cells are first unprotected. Only the selected cells are protected, marked for protected. In fact, the correct word would be marked for protected. And then in step 2, we will activate the protection through a password. So let me select the entire sheet. Either you right click, go to format cell, or you may wish to press the shortcut key Ctrl digit 1. So I go to format cells, I go to protection tab, I take away the lock option from everyone. Okay. Now I select just one cell which contains my formula. I right click, I go to format cells, and then I say this has to be locked. Billions of cells, only one cell has been marked for protection. Now we are going to step inside phase 2. So go to review tab. You will notice under review tab, one of the panel suggestions says protect sheet. Now I'll click on protect sheet, and the immediate dialog box that comes up says protect worksheet and contents of locked cells, which means amongst billions of the cells that we had marked for protection, by saying format cells protect lock, this will be applied to that very cell. So I'm going to give a very simple password ABC, and let me read further. It says allow all users of this worksheet to select locked cells or select unlocked cells. Now these are kind of access privileges. If you wish that nobody should be able to even touch the cell which contains the formula which you have marked for protection, you should take away this access privilege which says allow all users of this worksheet to select locked cell. I'm taking that access privilege. Now let me press OK. It'll ask for the password again. I will press ABC. OK. Now after a few seconds, notice when I try to select this cell, I'm not able to. In fact, if I put my cursor on the cell immediately above and press the down arrow key, it simply skips that and do what? It goes to the next cell. So I'm not able to delete that cell, not able to edit that cell, or able to view the formula inside it. In fact, I can change the other values. The formula will work fine as I increase the column width. But notice, since I had not given the access privileges to the user to change the column width, I can't even change that. Although if I decrease the zoom factor, I may be able to view it. In case not, let me just test with a simple number, 100. Yes, the formula is still working. So what I would have done in the first place is given the access privileges to ensure you can edit the column width. But wait, whatever we have applied right now has one lacuna. That is, if I press Ctrl backtick key, you notice I'm able to see the formula. I would not have wanted that in the first place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unprotect the sheet, make some changes, make some rectification, and then again protect the sheet. So how to unprotect the sheet? Go to review, go to unprotect sheet, given the same password ABC, enter. Now I will choose the cell again which contains the formula, right click, format cells. I'll ensure that the option hidden is also chosen. I'll press OK. Once I press OK, I'll go back to review tab. This is talking about step 2. So protect sheet, and here I give the password, same old password ABC, and notice there are other access privileges which I had not allowed last time. So I may say allow all users of this worksheet to format rows, insert columns, maybe delete row. No, I don't want to give that privilege. And maybe they are able to use filter at the same time along with sort. Let me press OK. Same password again. Enter. So this time when I try to click on it, nope. If I press Ctrl backtick key, I notice there is no visible formula. Ctrl backtick again to go back to normal, and the formula works as usual. In case it doesn't, let me increase the column width. It's just that I need to ensure that there's adequate space to display the answer. I could not have done this earlier unless I had given that access privilege. So what we learned is, amongst all the cells, first you need to unprotect all the cells. Selectively choose those cells which you want to protect, mark them for protection by right clicking format cells, and then going to step 2, which talks about putting a password and defining the access privileges. So this was all about protecting selected cells in the given sheet.
Now this tends to happen a lot of time that we have a file which is quite treasured for us as a very important file, so we tend to put passwords and secure it. But the problem that we end up is we forget the password. Maybe for some reason that happens. So how to recover or retrieve a file which is password protected? So let's try it. So I'm gonna protect this particular Excel sheet with a password, and I will show you how to remove the password. I know it sounds crazy, but yes, we are gonna do that. So let's try it. So I'll go to the review tab. I'll be clicking on protect sheet. So in this case, I'll be putting up a password. That's Yoda Learning is the password for me. So I'll just put up the password. I'll just repeat the same. Once the password is confirmed, now if you see the protection is activated, and if I try to type anything, it is not gonna happen. Now just for the confirmation part, I'll be saving this particular file. So I'll just go to file, save this particular sheet, and I will close it. Now I'll just reopen the same file. Just let it get updated. Just give it a minute. Now it's got updated. Now if I open the file and if I check, the tools are disabled, I cannot type anything, and it's still protected. So I have not clicked it anywhere yet, so I'll be closing this file. Now what is the trick to remove it? Now for this, first thing, you should be able to see the extension of the file. If that's not the case, simply go to the View tab from the Explorer and just go to the options, that is folder option. If this particular option is not visible here, simply go to the control panel, either by right click if you are using Windows 8 or any of the above versions. From the start, just simply right click on the start and control panel, or people with the other version, simply go to start and control panel directly. Once you are into the control panel, if the view is a bit different, simply go to the right corner. From the drop down, simply use the option large icon. It might be in category mode. Just change it into a large icon. Once you're into the large icon, now there will be folder option to the left. Just click onto it. The same panel will appear. Go to the View tab, and in the View tab at the bottom there is an option that says hide extensions for known file type. Now in your case it might be turned on. If it is so, please turn it off so that we can see the extension. So in my case I've turned it off. I'll just minimize it so I could see the extension. Now comes the trick. Rename your file by using either just select, press F2 from the keyboard, or right click rename, come to the extension and remove the extension, and we will be replacing it with a zip, ZIP, that is zip file format. It can be a RAR or any which way. So I'll be taking it with zip. So it will show you an alert that you are changing the data type. Simply click yes. Now once it is converted into a zip file format, open it. In my case there is an Excel folder. Now that's what you should look out for. Open the Excel folder. In that Excel there is another folder called worksheets. Now that's where your sheets will be stored. Open it. Open sheet 1, that is sheet 1 XML. Once that is open, a notepad will open with lot of tags and things. If any one of you people are actually using HTML, then you will understand these tags a little bit, but if not, just ignore it. So just go to the format option and wrap it up so that you can see it one below the other. Now don't have to read these entire codes, just simply go to edit and find, or the shortcut is Ctrl F. Here in the find you just have to type the word protect, and do not have to type the whole thing as well. Just type PRO and search it. So if you see, I got the word protect. I'll just increase the font size so that it is visible. So I'll just scroll down. So if you could see, it says sheet protection. Now this is the tag that you have to hunt down. So from the greater than, that is an opening tag, you have to select the entire tag where it ends. From less than till greater than, just select the whole tag, delete it. As simple as that. Once the tag is deleted, simply go to file, save this notepad, close it. So as it's a zip, zip will ask you whether you want to update these changes. Yes, we wish to. So once this notepad is updated, close the zip. Now it's an updated zip file. We have to convert it back to an Excel. So again, go back to rename mode, remove the zip and just mention back XLSX. Once done, click on enter, press yes to confirm the changes. It is back to our original Excel file. Now when I open it and if I see, my tools are enabled, and if I go to the review tab, the password has been removed. So I believe that this was a helpful session for you people.
In this Excel Beast Mode video, I'll share with you some excellent Excel data analysis tricks. Tricks which are easy to apply and enough for your audience to go wow. Let's begin. In this example of data analysis, I've taken a data set which spans over 8,500 plus rows. The data set consists of date, time element, and the electricity unit consumed. With this data, we will have to prepare an extensive analysis which will cover the month and the day, and based on that, how much electricity has been consumed. We'll also add a user interface which will allow you to track the consumption based on time. And with this data set, you can quickly make charts like these and these. So let us get started. First, let's extract the important information from the column A. The first piece of information I want is the electricity units consumed. I copy 0.384. I paste it in the adjoining cell so that there is no empty blank column in between. Now press Ctrl E. Wow, you will see all the data getting extracted beautifully in this column B. Now you're going to ask me, what is Ctrl E? Well, it's a technique called flash fill which is present under Data tab of Excel version 2013. Its strategy is based on training the machine. If you could show one sample output, you are in a way have trained the machine, and with that shortcut key Ctrl E, the machine did the task for you. Let me try this with date. I will extract 24th March 2014, copy that, paste in the adjoining cell which is connected, and then press Ctrl E. The results, although very good, but is not perfect. So what do? I choose column C, I press Ctrl Shift 3. This ensures all the dates which look like number gets shown as date format. Furthermore, I will get rid of all the underscore and the RDs and the TH, which prevents Excel to read this as date. You can easily apply find and replace by pressing Ctrl H. I put an underscore and replace with nothing. I can quickly click on Replace All button, or I may press Alt with letter A, Alt A. Enter. Next. ST. Replace all. Next. ND. Replace all. Next. RD. Replace all. Finally, TH. Replace all. I'll close this panel now. Next, if I wish to find out which of these are Sundays or Mondays, I may write a function called text. Text formula asks you to choose the date value, and then in the format you have to give 3 times D in a pair of double quotes. Enter. The text formula will help me get answers for all the dates. So I've got KWH, I've got the date in place, I have got the day in place. Now if I want time, what next? I try picking 3 PM, copying that, pasting in the cell which is connected in the same row, and then pressing Ctrl E. However, this will not yield you correct results with respect to time. Reason? As you pasted 3 PM, its format got changed and became more elaborate. You can see in the function bar 3:00:00 space PM. This sample with which you are trying to train the machine is not the same as input, hence the confusion. So let me put a single quote 3 and then space followed by PM. This ensures that the time will be stored as text. Now with this sample, I press Ctrl E and get the results. Although the results are very encouraging and accurate, however, it's not clean enough. I should have trained the machine better with example of 8 PM. Reason? Because this case has problems of underscore and lack of space. So I go back. I put single quote 8 space PM, enter, and then using 8 PM as benchmark, Ctrl E. Superb. If you have a concern that this time is being read as text, you may apply a function called value. Any number stored as text, any date stored as text, or any time stored as text will be converted into a proper format. Let me choose the time, close the parenthesis, enter. I will select the value and press Ctrl Shift 2 to make it look like time. There you go. You got your results. I'll keep a heading of time version 2. With all this important information pieces right in front of you, you are all ready to move on to the next step of data analysis. I select the data using Shift Ctrl down. I go to insert. I activate pivot table and I simply press OK. Next, to draw the full benefit of pivot table, I will activate a setting from pivot table options. I click on it, I go to display tab, and then I activate classic layout option. OK. Now the 4 grids are very clear. The biggest of them all, which is value fields, is generally used for calculations such as max, min, average, percentage. Let me put date in the row fields. You can put the date in the row fields by dragging and dropping in the section at the bottom also. You can also make a tick mark. Now, when you right click on any one date, you get an option called group. You click on group and choose months. What is this going to do? It's going to group the dates into clusters of month. Next time you can try with grouping dates with months and years both. Right now I'm more keen to put day in the column field. And I want to rearrange the sequence of these days from Monday to Sunday. So I right click on Sunday. I go to option move. I then choose move Sunday to end. Now let me fill this value grid area with kWh, that's the electricity units consumed. Once having chosen all the numbers, I press Ctrl Shift 1 to correct the format with 2 decimals. The analysis shows the total consumption during the entire year was 6849. Now when I choose all the information pieces from the grid excluding the grand totals, I can go to Home tab, go to Conditional Formatting, reach out towards color scales and choose the heat map option, which is the 8th one. Next, I wish to show a small chart against every month. So I select the cell, I go to insert, and then I go to spark lines. This is a feature of 2010 version of Excel, and click on the line option. All it asks me is to choose the data range, which I gladly do so from Monday to Sunday. Do remember, no grand totals to be taken, else your chart will be misrepresenting the data. Press OK. Once the spark line is in place, you can modify the settings by going to design and choose high point and low point. Furthermore, you can drag this down to have the same for all months. Next, I choose any cell from inside the pivot table and then I go to Analyze. Within Analyze, I choose Insert Slicer. It was introduced in the version 2010 of Excel. Let me choose Slicer and then I will take up the version time 2. Okay. It provides me with a simple user interface panel which I can drag towards the right, and this will control the pivot table display on the left. Let me try it out. If I choose 1 o'clock or 5 o'clock, you can see the difference. I can also clear the filter from the slicer. If you want to make a quick chart based out of this data, simply select a cell from inside the pivot table and press function key F11. Whoa! If that's not all, you can also modify the chart by right-clicking on the bar and go to Change Series Chart Type. Once you click on it, you can decide to choose which chart would you want to apply on your data set. There you go. Press OK. This chart quickly tells me that July is the month of highest consumption, followed by January, June, and thereafter December. Before I conclude, let me show you the best trick of the day. Why don't I keep the time version 1 in the report filter? And if somebody asks me to make 24 hours report, individual reports in different sheets, I'm not going to use this technique. I'll go to Analyze. I'll find out where the option is and then click on the drop down. And finally, I find this option which I'm going to use, Show Report Filter Pages. Let me click on it and press OK, and in 1 second, you'll have 24 sheets generated, one for every time zone. Let me go back to my original pivot table by right-clicking at the bottom left corner of the screen, scroll down and choose Sheet 1. It's time for a quick wrap-up of this Excel Beast Mode video. In this video, you learned how to do data analysis in Excel. We used various strategies and tricks. One of my favorite tricks is Flash Fill, which is a new feature of Excel version 2013. Others include pivot tables, spark lines, and heat map through conditional formatting. Apply these learning to your job and become faster, save time, and bring efficiency.